Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Jason Rothman.
Wow.
As always, I'm joined by the great Chris Schaefer for the 150th episode of the Paid Search Podcast. Chris, how's it going this week? It feels like a weird week. We've been giving away free insiders, talking about Patreon. It's the first of the month, like reporting and invoicing.
Yeah.
It does not feel like a normal day, but that's how I feel. How about you?
Yeah, I feel like this little podcast has exploded into like a second job now. I mean, we're doing so much. We're getting busy. People are liking it. People are willing to put money down to hear more of it. So it's exciting. If I was able to do just talking full time, wouldn't that be such a cool job? Don't you think? Like just talking and getting paid for it and never actually having to touch another AdWords account again. Wouldn't that be the dream? That would be the dream.
Wow. Well, not for me personally. I love what I do. I wake up in the morning, put my feet on the floor to do it. And I love the grind. Instagram, hashtag. So Chris, why don't you get us kicked off with Optio here, and then we will keep going.
Yeah, let me tell you guys about what keeps me able to handle the difficulty of day-to-day management of Google Ads. An online tool called Optio, opteo.com/PSP. This is a tool that provides the knowledge gap, the alerts, the information that you need that you may not see in the typical Google Ads interface to get things done faster. One of the things we're focusing on this month is the special alerts that they provide in your inbox. You wake up in the morning, you're thinking, I don't really even know what to look at. Should I check on it? Is there anything wrong with it? In your inbox, you get to see what's up, what's going on, suggestions, improvements. opteo.com/PSP. Get an extended 6-week trial. Try it out for yourself. opteo.com/PSP.
Thanks, Chris. And I want to thank Directive Consulting. Directive Consulting is a go-to B2B and enterprise search engine marketing agency. They specialize in pay-per-click, SEO, landing pages, content marketing, the whole digital marketing environment to get B2B companies and enterprise companies more leads and better leads. They've got a great website, great case studies. When you go to their website, you will be very impressed with the kind of clients they've worked with. They work with big enterprise clients. They specialize in that space. And as someone who's in the digital marketing space, it is a different field. It's different from the small little mover, the big enterprise clients. They need different services, different solutions, and Directive provides them. So if you're looking for an agency for your B2B company or for your enterprise company to get more leads and get better leads in an agency that gets it, we recommend going to directiveconsulting.com and getting a custom proposal. Now, Chris, we always like to kick this show off with reviews. I had an idea to put out a little social media thing this week. You shot it down. I'm actually going to go there right now and check the rankings. So let's see if you're impressed by this in real time. So business podcasts, we're rounding into the top 600. Okay, in overall business, they ranked the first 200 in iTunes. You can actually see them. I think that's pretty good. And then in the UK, we were getting to the top 200. So, I mean, Chris, I was pretty impressed with that. But when I put out made my little social media graphic, you're like, don't post that. Please don't post that.
I like to approach my conversations with you in the same way that I approach my children. They ask for something 4 times. I say no 3 times, and I say yes 1 time. So it always keeps them, I need to try harder. It's a matter of making sure that each time they don't expect a yes, but when they do get a yes, it's a special day. So I think, there's a little insight, Jason. It's not personal. It's just a strategy.
Okay, Daddy. Well,
good job.
the reason we're increasing The reason we're increasing those rankings is because you guys leave reviews. That's it. I mean, it's as simple as that. You listen and leave reviews, and they bump us up in the rankings. And Chris, today's review comes from Logan in Australia via Apple Podcast. And he said, Jason, hashtag the AdWords master, and gave us 5 stars. Thanks a
Jason?
bunch, guys. You've been very helpful, all the while being entertaining AF. Jason has all the jokes, loving the banter and chemistry between you lads, while helping the world get better at AdWords and life stuff. Well, Logan, thank you for that review.
Wow, that's very one-sided. Did you write that?
No, I mean, I'll show it to you. It's a great review. It's my favorite review,
Okay.
and
Well,
I love it. So thank you for that review, Logan, again. And Chris, we got some news too. I mean, give me some sound effects here. It's been a while. Okay, my Bing ads became Microsoft advertising.
Wow, that's it. Thank
That's
you
it.
for joining us for the news section. That's how much we put stock into that.
Oh, hold on. This just in, something to scare the hell out of you. No, Chris, reach millions of new customers on Bing. Start now. Bing ads has become Microsoft advertising. Now, Chris, I would just put it this way. It's always surprised me for the last like 5 years why Microsoft and Bing has been such a small part of the search engine marketing discussion. Like, I get it. Google's awesome. Google's great. Google's better. Like, working in the platform, it's a better platform. But search engine marketing is so profitable for these search engines. I've just always thought that at some point, Bing is going to wake up, Microsoft's going to wake up and start throwing more money into this and start competing more. And I think they're going to grow and get better. And I think that might be happening because Microsoft, if you follow the business news, Chris, is making so much money right now with all their cloud stuff. Like they're the other day, they became the biggest company in the country, Microsoft.
Yeah.
So I would just say that's my prediction that over the next like 5 years, Bing is going to get aggressive.
I don't know. It seems, I mean, when you get into the Bing ads, it's basically just a UI built to duplicate what's in Google ads. I mean, it's
That's the whole news. The whole news is that they're like not going in that direction anymore. They're going to start offering their own stuff, new stuff.
I don't know. I mean, that's the only reason I usually even tell clients that I might be able to help them is because I will tell them, sure, I'll import your AdWords campaign into Bing and then we'll just let it run. That's as far as I'm able to promise anything. But yeah, it's
it is underutilized. I mean, like if I had a gun to your head, or if I was just asking you to speak bluntly, like I don't have to take it there. Like if we were just going out for coffee, I don't know why people take it there.
That's fine.
But
I'm into guns.
I actually had a vision like last night of like how I would take you out. Like if we had these kind of like content discussions in person, there'd probably be a lot of physical violence because sometimes they get a little testy. And like you're shorter than me, but you're tough.
A little.
So you're going to come in quick and try to grab my chest and wrap me up.
Yeah.
So I was thinking the first thing I would do is give you a short uppercut, a stiff uppercut right to the mouth. And then when you're inside tight, a nice right elbow to the head, but you're tough. And I think you would just keep going with that little youth rage you had, being a little nerd, and you would tackle me and get on top of me. And then I would throw up a triangle on you, and then you just shoot a hole through my chest. So at the end of the day, I decided that Chris was going to beat me up and take me out. But Chris, you have to admit it. If we were going out for coffee and speaking honestly, Bing is underutilized by people like you and me and the rest of us.
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
because
Bing's pretty cool.
Google Ads,
like you just
Google
import
Ads
from
is
Google and it
always
works.
It's always a black hole in Google Ads of what else can I do? People very, very rarely will say, okay, I've reached the end. Oh, look, here's the bottom of the Google Ads well. I have money left over to put into Bing. That's not usually the case. It's usually let's bid more. Let's get a better conversion rate. Let's try, YouTube. Let's try remarketing. Let's try display. It's usually, keep pushing deeper on it rather than picking up some of the budget and moving it over. That's usually the case.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm not much of a Bing fan, but That's mainly because I just put all my eggs in one basket, which is an extremely smart thing to do. Um,
Yeah. Well,
so
I guess that's today's PSA to give Bing more of a try. I'm gonna make an effort to get in there more and get more clients onloaded because I just look at the Bing reports I get from some of my clients, Chris, and it's just like, okay, we spent less than we spent on Google Ads, but the search terms are great, the the traffic's great, the cost per clicks are good, and why not
yeah.
get more? So yeah, but that's the news. Microsoft kind of waking up, becoming more aggressive, rebranding Bing as Microsoft Advertising.
All right. Well, Jason, I have a question for you. Samantha from Niagara Falls, beautiful place, very wet, lots of water movement. Samantha says, "Hey, Chris and Jason, the agency I've hired seems to keep pushing back with excuses as to why our non-branded keywords and campaigns are not achieving more than 2 to 1 most months. What percentage of our budget should be branded versus non-branded, and what is a good ROA, return on acquisition, turn on? Okay.
Turn
What is a
on
good
advertising
ROA?
spend.
Advertising spend. That's what it is. Okay, I'm used to ROI. Advertising spend, ROAS, goal for our non-brand. So we have two questions here. How should you split the branded versus non-brand? And is she way out of line to think she can get 2 for 1?
Now, do you mean 2 to 1, Chris, like double the non-brand spend versus brand? Or are you talking about the return, like cost per conversion,
No,
and you get like 2 times the value or whatever?
right. I think what she's saying, considering she's using return on ad spend and not lead gen or anything like that, I imagine she's probably an e-commerce store. So my imagining is she's looking at the transaction value, conversion value, and looking at how much she spend, and is she getting positive numbers? Is she getting at least for every dollar she spends, she's getting $2 out of it?
Right. Well, I remember when we had Jacob from Disruptive on his, I think his metric he goes for is 5 to 1, and that's a good threshold to aim for. Um, I I would say it just depends. Like it's so hard to answer that because like I mean maybe that market is so competitive that 2 to 1 is all they can get, or maybe they have a horrible agency and another agency could get them 3, 4, or 5 to 1. Kind of
Yeah.
kind of hard to answer, but I guess Chris, the levers I would be looking to pull. Number one, look at your keywords or your products for the last like 60, 90 days, 4 months, 6 months, whatever, and see if there are any like super horrible, and sort by cost to look at the most costly, and see if there are any horrible keywords or products that are getting a ton of cost and few or no conversions and have a really bad cost per conversion compared to your overall, because those are weighing down your return. And if they haven't cut those out, then that means there's room to improve. The other thing I would be looking at is just like if you don't find any immediate problems like that, like if you want more return, it would mean lower the spend. So try lower bids for a month and see if you're able to still get the volume, and that can improve your return. And then focus on your search terms 101 stuff and see where the money's going and see if it makes sense that you're getting clicks from searches that could see if they're actually searches that could produce paying customers
Yeah.
without
I
knowing the
think,
account. Isn't that good advice?
yeah, I think you're right on track. I mean, we don't have details, and she mentioned that in her message that she knows it's going to be difficult without details. So I don't think there's any reason in restating what you said, because I think that's exactly right. I mean, you have to be really tight about what you're allowing and what you are not allowing.
Yeah.
So I'll say, in my experience, I'm going to assume you're working in e-commerce based on your return on ad spend measurements and goals. One of the things I found in working in e-commerce is there is such a difference between certain markets. If there is a market where a person needs something that's just right, this is what I'm looking for. This fits. This works. This is unique. There's not a billion other options out there. I often find that success, a 5 to 1 goal, is manageable. It's possible, but if you're selling beauty products, or you're selling something that has a million other options out there and you're not necessarily unique, or your prices aren't really good, you don't offer something that's, particularly special beyond everybody else, then a 5-to-1 is almost a pipe dream. I mean, it's not going to be possible anytime soon. So my thought is it really comes down to what you're selling, and whether that is going to perform in the way that you want. It's sometimes, no matter how hard I try on certain things, they're just not going to perform. And then other campaigns, it seems like you launch it and it immediately works. So it really depends on the industry, and it depends on your product. How are you presenting it? What's unique about what you're doing? What's special compared to the competitors out there? Because believe me, if Google Shopping tells us anything, people search for things a bunch of times. They click and search and click and search and pull up multiple tabs and research. And if you're not offering anything that's particularly outstanding beyond somebody else, you're probably not going to end up getting that sale.
E-commerce. I like the service side of things, Chris. Now, Chris, let's get into today's topic. Oh, by the way, if you guys want to leave us a question, Paid Search Podcast contact page, paidsearchpodcast.com. And then also our voicemail, 214-810-1355. And we love playing your voicemails here on the air. Now, Chris, today's episode, it's when we don't follow our own advice. And I'll tell you what this episode was inspired by. I have an investing podcast out there. Top investing podcast.
Oh, top.
It's ranked, but we just it says top and then it says a number. But one day I will be at the top, Chris, with that show. But what I've noticed, Chris, I follow a lot of investors, and there's a lot of like public investors, and they're very good. And some of them are known for certain styles and preaching things and writing things in their books. And that's what they become known for. And then because careers are long and people evolve and opportunities come up, they'll get like 10 years into their kind of public investing career, make an investment in a company for a reason they're not really known for before. It's kind of going outside their known style. And from their point of view, they're like, they get a little pushback with comments online, and people are like, whoa, this is totally not what you say you do. This is like a deviation. Is he losing his mind? Why is he making this investment? And from their perspective, the smart investors are like, well, it is different than what I usually do, but people evolve, and I saw a great opportunity, and I'm going to make a lot of money with this investment. So even though it's different than what I typically do, it's not a typical situation. I'm going to make the move and make a bunch of money. And so I've kind of thought about us in that perspective, Chris, because we've gotten on here for years now and talked about some things over and over: search terms, manual bids, conversion tracking, not doing SKAGS, position 2 to 3 to get the most clicks possible, all that kind of stuff. But then when I look at some of the campaigns I manage and some of the advice we give here week to week, we stray from that sometimes. Sometimes we are doing pure broad. Sometimes we are doing automated bidding. Sometimes we do SKAG. And I thought it would be an interesting show to kind of talk about when we don't follow our own advice, give examples of that, and kind of basically come clean. Like, hey, it's not as easy as following a formula all the time. Sometimes you got to improvise. Sometimes you have new challenges and you got to go with a new solution. So what do you think about that, Chris?
I love it, because this is often the question that I get whenever I do training with people. When I do any type of consulting, they're like, well, I have this, I get 50 conversions every month, and I just don't have time to do manual bidding. And a lot of times I don't know which one I should bid higher, because they're all 15% conversion rates. And I'm like, wow, okay, you understand you're like in the top 1% here. I mean, if your campaign is outperforming 99% of other campaigns, you're doing very well. Normal rules don't apply. So, I mean, to jump into an example immediately, automated bidding is something that I very often break for these campaigns, these accounts that are outliers, that don't fit with the typical 1%, 2%, 5% conversion rates, and they're just killing it. It seems like every every 3 clicks, they get a qualified customer or at least a good lead or something. I mean, they're the guys who are like, I don't know, should my return on investment be, 500% or 700%? What would I be happy with? They're making the tough choices
Mm.
in Google Ads here. So to talk about automated bidding, the idea that I typically break out of when I have an outstanding campaign and I have true conversions now, and I have gone in and made sure that these are not doubling up. I don't have 3 conversion tracked for 1 click. I don't have 2 conversions tracked for 1 click. If I know this is truly a one-to-one relationship between clicks, conversions, I know these are valuable, I know it's generating money for me, then absolutely I might do automated bidding optimized for conversions, max conversions, possibly max clicks. I mean, it just depends.
Whoa.
But automated bidding, absolutely something that I do if the system has the data. But if you're struggling with 10 conversions a month, and you're getting a 5% conversion rate, 4% conversion rate, maybe you're not quite there yet. Usually my rule is to say, if you're getting a lead every day, you're getting 20 to 30 leads a month, something like that, then you may be in the market for automated bidding. That's a rule breaker right there.
Well, let's go down our green list here. And like you're saying, let's start off with automated bids. So, of course, we're known for a preference for manual bids. I would say 80 to 90% of my accounts are on manual right now, Chris. What about you?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So even though we're going to talk pretty glowingly about automated, please remember we are the manual bid guys and we're still on that train to nowhere, apparently, because our days are numbered, Chris. They like openly saying they count. You are making a mistake. You're a loser.
Not recommended. Not recommended. Don't do it.
Yeah, but I'm still doing it. So yeah, we're mostly manual. But so when you deviate into automated, it's more when you're getting a lot of conversions and things are you're able to get that conversion data and you want to keep things rolling with the target CPA. I'll tell you the time I use automated bids is situations where it's a unique situation. All my keywords are structured great. Like I'm not going to get any loose garbage. Like there's no like two word broad modified keywords that are going to bring in crazy stuff. It's really tight geo near me kind of keywords. And so I know my search terms are going to be perfect no matter what. Usually we don't have conversion tracking in this situation. The client just isn't able to get it on their site or their site's not set up for it. And it's just a real unique situation. And the market is competitive. Like there's some cities where you have movers where it's a really competitive market. And what happens is I just can't get there to manually change the bids to where they need to be, like to $29 or $35 for movers, a local moving company. It's hard for me to do it after getting like $10, $12, $15, $18 in all these other markets.
You're saying psychologically, it's hard for you to literally type the numbers in and just make yourself do that. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's hard for me to do it. And then not only is it hard for me to do it psychologically, it's hard for me to manage because as soon as I start seeing numbers that look higher than normal, my move is to lower them and then we lower them and then we don't get volume. So what I like doing in this situation where search terms are going to be perfect, don't necessarily have the best conversion tracking in place, and it's a super competitive market, I like turning on maximize clicks as an automated strategy. And what I've noticed is the system is pretty good about not having any psychological issues about raising the bids to where they need to be. And the cost per click shoots way up. And then what's cool about the automated strategy is it'll try to get you the maximum clicks. And so I have seen situations where that system in a hyper competitive market can manage higher bids better than I can manage them manually and get some lower bids mixed in there, lower costing clicks mixed in there. And just like the first 3 days, there's a serious ramp up. You'll turn on maximize clicks the first day. And sometimes you won't get like hardly any impressions or clicks. Like the system really is learning. And so you have to understand that's going to happen for 2 to 3 days. But then once it kicks in, I've seen situations where the $50 a day budget, or $100 a day budget, no problem spending it, even though it's a competitive market, and it flows. So that's the time where I'm deviating into automated, where
Yeah.
it's just hyper competitive. It's hard to manage those high bids, and the system kind of just goes to town. I think
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can put a bid cap when you do automated bids, like, okay, automated, but don't get a higher cost than this. And it's nice having that backup in there, because then, like, okay, you're not going to just totally go off on your own and get a crazy cost per click. So that's when I use automated. Have not, Chris, I have not done target CPA in forever,
Oh
because
no.
my
Oh
accounts that get a lot of conversions, I'm managing them manually. I'm managing them intensively, and we got to get good results. We got to keep getting good results. I need to be in control. I mean, maybe I'm missing out. Maybe it would do a lot better, but as long as the client's happy and everyone's making money, we stick with manual. But that's a place I haven't been down in a while, is target CPA,
yeah.
or even
Yeah. Target
maximize
CPA.
conversions.
Target CPA, I feel for me, and just like you, lead generation is largely where my clients are, and sometimes it's not really about getting the lowest cost per conversion for lead generation. It's about whether they get this type of lead or this type of lead, and sometimes those leads are not even. Sometimes, if they can get a lead for $15 a lead, that looks great on paper, but in reality, they'd rather get $40 cost per lead, because these other more expensive leads are going to lead to more revenue for them. So absolutely. I think maximize conversions, maximize clicks are currently my favorite. So I'll tell you, jumping into the next one, Jason, I don't know if I ever purposefully do this next one. SKAGS.
All right, I was going to admit
I
that to you too. Like, I wrote it down there because we preach non-SKAGs. We do themed ad groups. We don't do SKAG, but this is the episode where we don't do what we preach.
Right.
And so I wrote down using SKAGs. But Chris, I'm like an alcoholic who's sober, and I'm not just going to have like a beer once a week, because it doesn't work that way, because you'll go off the
Right.
wagon. I'm a former skagger, okay? I can't just skag once or twice now and think my life's going to stay in control. Like, I can't even go down that road knowing what I know now. It's just so nonsensical that why would I do it once? So I don't do it either. And I was curious if
I
you do, but you don't do it either.
The furthest I go is not really a skag. It's more like just a focused exact match ad group. So I'll have something that I name exact, and I will grab 3 exact keywords. I just did it on a campaign
I would love to
this
see the search terms in that ad group, because I guarantee you they're not exact
they're
these
not
days.
exact. Yeah. 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 It's going to be like, it should be called exactish because
Exactish, yeah.
it's not exactly exact. But yeah, I mean, that's about as far as I go.
All
I did
right.
it in a campaign this week because there were 3 exact match keywords that a client was just killing it with on their old campaign, and then all the others were kind of dropping off. So I took those 3 winners, put those in an exact match ad group, and that was my version of
And how's
that.
that working out for you, by the way, this
Well, I
week?
haven't launched it yet, Jason, but thanks for
All
asking.
right,
I'll follow up.
resetting everything, resetting the data, not putting in some really smart phrasing
It's a
match.
risk.
I don't get it, dude. I don't get it. I'm
It's a
sorry. I don't get
it's a
it.
risk. It's a risk, but when you're a winner, you're a winner. So let's talk about one thing that I definitely do.
This is what I do the most.
Pure
Yeah. This is what I
pure
break the
prod,
most.
very loose modified. I'll tell you, we've talked about this on an entire episode, and it is absolutely something I fall back on. Uh, Jason, I can let you go an example about how you use it. I'll just talk about when I use it. For me, is
When
when
you're
I'm
drunk.
struggling. I take the good side. You could do the other side. So I like to use it when I have a really highly competitive campaign is one
All right.
option, and lots of competitors out there, really expensive, and I need to grab some of the crumbs that are coming off the table for this highly competitive industry, and I don't have the budget to compete. Another example is, let's say it's something that's just not really defined. I mean, if I'm selling car insurance, I know what keywords to choose. But if I'm selling something really obscure, like I'm selling inkjet printers for UPS stores or something, I mean,
Right.
like something I'm going to
Google
have to
Ads
get long.
management.
Yeah, Google Ads Management, right. I can't just go with Google Ads Management.
That's not what
I'm
the
going to have
clients
to
are going
be,
to search. They're going to search like
no,
help with PPC.
how do I feed my kids with my business? I mean, like just really random things. So
Yeah.
here's an example when I would use broader, loose keywords, and that's usually a winner for me. At least what I have planned. We're going to go into this more. This is something I want to talk about. What I'm going to refer to as a keyword farm. I'm farming for new keywords, and
Change
I'm going to
that
use.
word, bro. That has a
I am.
negative
I'm getting
connotation.
into it.
The word farm
No,
is like a negative SEO connotation.
no,
Yes,
no.
it
There
is.
are Minecrafters out there like me. I'm a Minecrafter. Okay, I've been doing it since it released,
I don't know what
and
that means.
keyword farm is
Is this
something
a
that you guys
15-year-old
take
boy
right
thing
by.
that you talked to on the
I,
VoIP? Hey guys, are you on the VoIP yet? Are these
okay,
the
first
guys that ask you for advice and they're like,
which
"Whoa,
shows
whoa,
the
you're what?"
average gamer nowadays is in their 30s. Just so you know, 15-year-olds, I'm not talking to 15-year-olds. We're talking
Anymore?
grown men.
That's because all you guys grew up.
That's right. We grew up and we're still gaming. We're just rich gamers now. Okay, go
Wow.
ahead. You can have your 2 seconds.
um Broad keywords. No, Chris, I think that's a great point. Like the examples of when we use it. So deviating from what we preach, phrase, broad match modified on every word in the keyword, if it's a long keyword phrase, exact match. When we modify from that and we go very loose modified, which what we mean by that is only one or two words in the phrase has a plus sign. Like moving companies near me, it would just be the word moving as would have the modifier on it. And then pure broad is when there's no modifiers. In terms of not practicing what we preach and actually doing this and breaking the mold, this is the one I do the most often out of bounds, Chris. Like this is the most often I don't stick to the plan system. And it's exactly the fields you're talking about. Car accident lawyers, Chris. You could do car accident lawyer exact match and it's super expensive. Or you could do car accident lawyer plus sign on just the word lawyer and see what comes in, and you're going to get a lower cost per click. So it's very expensive industries. And then the other time when I use it, especially pure broad, are industries that are, like you're saying, it's not defined the way people are going to search for it. So advertising for my own business, Chris, Google Ads Management. If I put in a bunch of phrase and exact keywords, Google Ads Management Company, the only people that are going to see my ads are competitors doing searches on that keyword. Like
Mhm.
that's the only people who refer to this business as Google Ads Management Company. So I like throwing in Google AdWords services, Google AdWords management services, pure broad, totally naked, and low bids, broad match like a pro. And it's pretty cool what comes in, Chris, because one, you get to see the way people are searching that you would like to show up on, and then you can target those the right way, those keywords, those search terms. But when you do it with a low cost per click, sometimes it really does work. You're going to get a lot of bad stuff, a lot of bad searches, but you are going to get some good leads. And so really undefined ways people are searching for things. Another example of that, Chris, Spanish. I advertise for a lot of lawyers in Spanish, and I know a
Oh,
lot of the words in Spanish, a lot of like divorce, slip and fall, criminal defense. I know all those words in
the
Spanish.
important ones, right?
Yeah, the important ones. My girlfriend is from Mexico. She coaches me up. It gets very romantic. She's over my shoulder, Chris. She's like,
Wow.
abogado de criminalista. And I'm like, are we Bonnie and Clyde right now? And then she's like, get away from me. But
Oh,
Chris, Spanish. Um, I put in pure broad there because I just have no idea what people are searching for at the end of the day. Like I know the core way people search for things in Spanish with lawyers, and a lot of them do, but a lot of them do a lot of weird variations of the words, and it also seems like with Spanish, I don't pay that much of a penalty. Like I don't show up on too much crazy stuff because there's not as many searches going on. So
right.
and it works, man. I get great cost per conversions on my Spanish campaigns, and that's an example where I do exactly opposite of what I usually preach on this show, and it works. So you got to be flexible.
Yeah.
Speaking of flexible, using display without remarketing, that's as flexible as it gets. So why don't you get into this, Chris?
Yeah. Okay. So, again, Jason, I appreciate your mention at the top of this segment is we're going to talk about this, but this represents a very small minority of how often I do this. But there are times when I will just throw up a display campaign. Okay, let's define display. Display means you are not showing to people that are doing remarketing, that have not been to your website before. So this is not remarketing.
Not
This is not
remarketing.
YouTube.
Yeah.
This is display. It's showing to people who have no idea who you are. These are entirely new customers, and there are times when I use display, but I use it very carefully. Now, I think we've talked many times about using display. I think we did some special YouTube screen share videos about it. I've talked about it extensively on the show, entire episodes about it. But so I won't go into detail. But using multiple layering and topics and audiences and placements and keywords and demographics and devices and blocking, sometimes blocking mobile apps, I can be careful about what I'm showing. And the cool thing is, sometimes the way I like to use it is for the same situation I talked about before, when I hit a brick wall, because the cost per click is $26 and I only have $1,000 a month in budget. So what I'll do is I'll say, listen, I just need to get some traffic flowing. I just need to see, maybe instead of spending $26 on one click, I could get 150 clicks from the display network, and maybe one of those will convert. Maybe I'll find that, hey, this one patch of ads on this website has a little bit lower bounce rate. For me, sometimes that's a win. You have to go with what you're able to get. So, I'll say, look, it's only a 70% bounce rate. That's way better than 99 that I'm getting, 99% bounce rate that I'm getting on these $26 keywords.
Yeah.
So, the value is in the volume. I mean, that's what's so nice about display. You can control it, and it's very cheap. And when it comes down to it, if you have no other options on getting traffic through the Google network, display might be a great option for you. And it's absolutely a rule breaker. Sometimes I just do it.
And Chris, display is and Google Ads in general, it's totally underrated in my opinion. Like, as someone who advertises themselves, like, I know that when I'm advertising, my conversions reported does not equal the value that advertising brings to my company. Because if I'm running display on pure keywords like Google Ads, digital marketing, something like that, and someone clicks on a display ad and I pay 15 cents or whatever, or 25 cents, and then they come to my website and I get a bounce rate from that traffic of like that people, you just never know who sees my site. And then the 3 people out of 100 that actually spend multiple minutes on it, then they get on my remarketing list, and you just never know like who goes, wow, this is the kind of blog I was looking for, and then sees my blog and then follows my blog and then recommends me to people in their Facebook group once every 3 months. Or someone sees that, oh, he does a podcast, and then they listen to the podcast and then they tell 5 friends about the podcast. It just, the conversion number just does not capture all that value. So the display network, if you're wanting to spend money and grow and really advertise and just get some benefits, I mean, pay attention to those bounce rates and pay attention to the time on site. And if you're getting more and more people to follow your business, that can only help. And Chris, an example of how I used pure display to get conversions, real conversions. I'll tell you about this one. Mass tort client, someone made something that did something bad to people, and then these people were like, well, someone did something bad to me, that sucks. And then lawyers were like, wait, someone did something bad to you? That doesn't just suck, let's sue them. This is good. This doesn't suck at all. Right. We're going to get rich.
Congratulations.
Call our number, sign up with us. And then those people were like, okay, but like, I'm still sick and it still sucked. But the lawyers were like, but hey, we're all going to get money.
Here's money. And
they're like, well, it sucks because I'm going to be like dead. And then the lawyers were like, you're right, that sucks. But Chris, there was a mass tort thing that happened, kind of a new field. We always talk about new things can be searched for every day. No one searched for tablets or iPads until there were tablets and iPads. So it was a new thing. And the law firm I was working with was hot and heavy. They were like, max us out on search, position one. These things are super valuable. We don't care at all about the cost per click. Like, we're getting way more money by signing these people up. So advertise very strongly. So we did that on search, and then we're like, we want more. And I was like, well, we can try display. I don't usually do it. And they were like, well, try it, because it doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter because we're making so much money. So I tried it out, Chris. I just did pure keywords. And here's the magic of it. The keywords, when I put in this mass tort topic, which was a new topic, they led me to being shown on many pages. Some of them sucked, but one of them was a content website that someone created to basically attract people who were searching for this in Google organically, get a bunch of traffic to their site, and either like refer the leads to lawyers or make content advertising money.
Wow.
And so this website was getting only and exactly the kind of people that I needed to be in front of. And so I just added that specific placement as a placement, and then did a huge cost per click bid, like $25 on the display network,
On display. Wow.
and tried to get it there as much as possible. And like, it only brought in like, I think 5 leads in the month or something like that. But that was 5 more leads that they wouldn't have gotten if it wasn't for that display strategy. And by the way, I know that sounds awesome and impressive. That's like one of the only times I've gotten pure display, non-remarketing pure display to actually bring in like solid conversions. But that's an example of how it can work, and how sometimes you need to deviate from our strategy of not generally doing pure display. But Chris, we talked about pure broad, talked about pure display, competitors, and one-word keywords. We're going to wrap up with that. So Chris, targeting competitors. What do you think?
I'm sorry. My answer is very short on this. The time I break the rule on competitors is when the client says, I want to run on competitors. And I say, yes, sir. You're paying the bill. That's fine. That's your money. We'll do it. Honestly, I never seek it out on my own. So I'm not really much of a rule breaker unless the client specifically asks for it. Generally, I don't like to do it. I go so far as to typically block anybody who is not searching for the keyword itself, and includes some type of competitor term in it. A person's name, a business name, LLC, things like that. So not much of a rule breaker there.
Well, Chris, neither am I most of the time. Like, most of the time when I see competitors sneak through in the search terms, I'm adding them as negatives by default. And what I want to produce for the client is that clean search terms report where it says moving companies near me, divorce lawyers in Memphis, all those kind of great classic searches. I don't care if they're in LA or Nevada, Chris. Like, I want to show up on divorce lawyers in Memphis. And that's what I want to generally produce. But just like you, Chris, I have had clients ask to show up on competitors. One of them was a moving company, and he said, hey, like, I want to show up on competitors. I was doing it before you came in here. Now you're adding them as negative. My cost per click is going up. I don't like it. I want to show up on competitors, and my volume's going down. And I was like, yeah, but don't you know, like, even though it's a lower cost per click, just so many of those people are already going to have a move book with another moving company and just be calling to pay their bill or ask a question or whatever. Why do you want to waste your budget on there, even though it has a lower cost per click? And he was like, no. I get it. I know what's going on. I know most of them already have a mover, but I know, because I have this skill as an intake person answering the call from my moving company, I know how to turn those customers into my customers and tell them about my company and tell them about my prices and all that. And so he wanted to do it, and it worked for him. So I have seen it work. I do it sometimes, but it's more of those, like, a client really has to understand what's going on. And then, like, Chris, it's going to vary industry to industry. Like, some industries, people are just looking for a commodity. They're not tied to the company. The only reason they would be Googling a company's name is because they have a new move or something like that. But then a lot of times you get in industries where they're going to Google, like software, they're going to Google that software over and over and over to look for help pages, to log in, and they're already a customer with that company. So you're going to have a very small chance of turning them into something profitable. Now, speaking of small, let's talk about one-word keywords. The great optimizer, I think I'm pretty sure it has a tool in there to help you pick out one-word keywords. I think AdWords Editor has a tool to help you pick out one-word keywords, I think.
Yes.
So generally, one-word keywords are looked down upon. but every now and then they make sense. For me, Chris, I've noticed the word mover phrase match, moving, of course, moving phrase match. Those don't work. Like those bring in so much bad stuff that's just not worth it. However, every now and then, because we deviate sometimes, I get a client like an electrician. The word electrician, Chris, it's not going to show up in a lot of competitors' names. Like, I don't think a
Mm,
lot of electricians call themselves like Chris and Jason electricians. Like,
right.
it just like the word movers, they do, like Jason and
Like
Chris movers.
Power Bros or
Yeah,
something.
stuff like that. So you don't worry about that. And the word electrician phrase match, how do you run in? Like, if someone's searching for that, it seemed to me like, hey, most of the time they're probably looking for whatever comes before or after that word electrician phrase match, the one word keyword, they're probably looking for an electrician to hire. So we were struggling with volume this week on a new campaign, and we thought, you know what? Let's put in electrician phrase match. Just try it out. Just try it out. You're the boss, Chris. You're the boss. Just try it out, and we'll see. Just test it out, and we'll see how that one keyword does. So electrician has been working well. That's my one example. I mean, I really stay away from one word keywords generally, Chris, besides
Yeah.
brand, if it's your own brand. But what about you?
The time I break this rule is when number one, it's not a brand new account, a brand new campaign, somebody who's just getting started. And number two, because of the longevity of the campaign, they hopefully will have an extensive or moderately extensive negative keyword list. So as long as those two things are in
Mm,
place, and not one or the other. Just because they have a super old campaign does not mean I would do it, because we need the negative keywords. Just because it's a brand new campaign and they have a super long negative keyword list, that's not really going to
not
work
good
either, because
enough.
I can't
Okay.
trust that list. I don't know if that list has a bunch of good stuff or bad stuff in it. So if those two things are active at the same time, I might use a one word negative keyword, maybe
One
even
word
a
keyword.
broad match.
You said negative
One
keyword.
word. Sorry. Yeah. One word keyword, period. Yeah.
Okay.
One word keyword. Maybe even a broad match. I mean, it depends. I've had clients who are just like hungry for clicks,
Hungry. Yeah.
a bottomless pit. I mean, I know you have them too. And sometimes
I
they're just
do. I
like,
don't refer to them like that. I call them by their names.
well, they baffle me. They're like, I'm sorry. I thought I was here to spend money on Google. Please
Yeah.
do that. Why did you tell me to stop? Higher, 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 more, more, more. Hungry monster. So they baffle me, but they exist and they're out there. And if those two things are happening,
Hmm.
absolutely, one word keywords are acceptable.
All right, Chris. Well, there you go. Like now, no one can say like next time we recommend a pure broad or an automated based strategy, no one can go like, "Oh, you said you only do manual and phrase and exact, and you're deviating from your strategy. You're a liar." Well, no, it's just sometimes we deviate, and these are the
Episode
situations when we do.
150. It took us
Yeah,
150 episodes
yeah,
to say, okay, we do break the rules.
yeah, like a little bit, but
well,
not a lot.
let's talk about how to be even better at your job without having to break the rules all the time and come up with new things. You can come up with the tool opteo.com/PSP, opteo.com/PSP. Because you are listening to the sound of my voice, you are special. You are a snowflake, and you get a 6-week extended trial. That's right. Just you. Yep, you. opteo.com/PSP. Take advantage of this special offer and try out the tool for yourself.
Yes, Chris, and I want to thank Directive Consulting for sponsoring today's episode. If you are a B2B or enterprise company and you're looking for an agency who gets it and who understands your needs and can help you get more leads and better leads from search engine marketing, SEO, landing pages, content, we recommend Directive Consulting, directiveconsulting.com. You can go there and get a custom proposal. Now, Chris, we are into the kind of a home stretch of the episode. After we wrap up the topic, after we give our sponsors their mention, I think this is the kind of time of the podcast where we can really like just unwind a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Keep your shirt buttoned. Okay.
So I'm just gonna
Those of you on
I'm just
audio,
gonna loosen up a few buttons here and
wow.
really crack loose. So let's just let people
It's
know
a lot
what
of
we've going
hair.
on here, Chris. It's actually a white t-shirt. So Chris, paid search trivia, we're about to knock that out. And then everyone knows about the insiders. We just gave away a free one last week. And if you're looking for help out there to grow your freelance career or agency, we strongly recommend you guys check out the insider page of paidsearchpodcast.com. We're proud of that content. And by the way, if you guys like that content and you've bought some and are benefiting from it, please send us a testimonial. We want to post a bunch of testimonials on that page. So that's a shout out for that. And then Chris, brand new news, Patreon. We've launched a Patreon. We are going to basically just like crack loose after the end of these episodes, keep it going. What happens every week is we go, oh, let's do 1 hour of podcast, and then all it'll take us is 1 hour, and it'll be a great thing. And then we just do the podcast for 1 hour, and then we chit chat for like 30 minutes about business and AdWords strategies. And we're like, you know what? Let's just see if people want a little bit more and want to join us on Patreon. So we've launched on there, links in the description. And right after this show, we're going to go into that. So Chris, to start off with the paid search trivia, I did a multiple choice this week. This is a great tool that I've been using in Google Ads, an amazing tool to get to reports. That's how I use it. Google has a lot of great reports now in the new interface, but it's a little bit clunky to go from like the button that says reports and then basic and then the kind of report you want. So I like using this shortcut to just go, I just type in my shortcut on my keyboard, no matter what screen I'm in, and then I can get to my reports, or you can get to a different page if you wanted it. So how do you search for a report or page using a shortcut? A, do you hit GT? B, and you have to admit, these are great multiple choice because I threw in like different ways. A, GT. B, Command plus S. C, Control plus S. Or D, SN.
Gosh, you're going back to the very first question I asked. This is how I threw you for a loop. This might mess up my my golden run of correct answers. Yeah, that's a tough one. I see why you were mad at me on the very first one we did. Just a pure guess here. I don't think it's the command or the control, because oftentimes browsers will have shortcuts using those commands. So I think it's GTA.
All right, you're right. Yeah, no, you're right, and I'm happy for you. You're right, and I'm happy for you. You're a great game player, Chris. You're a great game player. I can see it. I can see those video game strategies you've developed.
Oh, yeah.
In real life. So, yeah, Chris, if you're in the interface, I do this a lot for my MCC. You just hit GT real quick. GT. You hit GT, and then a search bar comes up. And GT, I think, stands for go-to, I think. But you hit GT, and then, like, it just brings up the search bar, and I can start typing in search, and it'll bring up search terms, and I can get predefined reports to my search terms report, or I can type in campaign, and it'll start typing up predefined reports, campaign details, or campaigns. So it's a pretty cool feature. And man, it's just like you know that time when you're in your MCC and you just got an email from a client, and they're like, "Hey, I'm not really liking the results today. I don't think I'm getting anything." You're like, "Well, all I can do is get great search terms, so let me just show you what I'm getting you." And instead of going into the account, going to the search terms, you can just go GT, and go to your search terms and pull up that client. Yeah, love it. Love it.
Nice.
So that's today's paid search trivia. And with that, people, we're going into the first Patreon show.